Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everybody. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. We got a happy hour at Retro Metro coming up Friday. So we'd love for you to come join us, kick off the weekend. It's much colder today than I thought. I knew it was going to be a little cooler, but then it was a lot
Yeah.
colder. A
I'm
lot
not I'm
colder.
not happy about
A lot
this.
colder. I mean, it's just too cold for February 4th.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be unseasonably warm.
Get it
Well,
together, Missouri.
we'll get there. Look at that first alert forecast coming up here in just a bit. I love the continued freak out of people on the left over things that like really do not require freaking out. Evidently, people, according to the news leader, traveled from all over to come to a meeting to try and figure out how to grapple with the fact that MSU is no longer going to have institutional racism, that they are no longer, because of the fear of losing funding, they are going to start complying with law and no longer discriminate against people based off of gender and off of race. Something that I thought we got rid of a long time ago, but apparently there are enough segregationists that it filled the entire which church was this? Some area church. Well, we'll get to the details later, but it's like this is 2025, people. Like, you're really panicking because the current administration combined in Missouri with Republican leadership is actually stepping up and preventing discrimination based off of race and gender. Really? What year do you people live in? It's like the 1940s? Right? For some of them, maybe the 1840s. It is like traveling back in time. Segregation, bring it back. What are we going to do if whites and blacks are forced to be treated equally? My gosh, this is horrible. What world do you people live in? I mean, now some of them, and you look at the pictures, are probably from an era where they grew up during that period of time. And there's nostalgia. You long for the days where black's over here, white's over here, this color over there, and you get everyone separate and segregated. And I know that period of time where some of us, I grew up in the heyday of we didn't really care what color. We all just got along. We were people. And it's clear that there are certain generations that miss the good old days of segregating. And so they got together and of all, at the town hall, 275 people, organized by the NAACP, fighting to bring back segregation, to keep segregation. So we've got that. Also, the Wired.com is writing a piece off another level of panic on the left. U.S. government websites disappearing in real time. Oh my gosh. I've seen some people posting on social media. Oh, the www.whatever, a website I've never heard of .gov, it's disappeared. Oh my God, what's going on? People are panicking over websites that they didn't even know ever existed. What are we going to do without the government websites? Oh my God, I've never even visited the website. I guarantee you. 99.9% of the people who are posting about the great travesty of government websites disappearing in 2025 have never even heard of a single one of these websites. Had to Google government websites that have disappeared under Donald Trump, or they've simply seen somebody else's post in the echo chamber. We talked about this yesterday, the mental illness that the left has in which they seek out reasons to panic. It's like they wake up and I got to find a reason to be panicked today. Well, what's this website thing? I mean, I better check that out. And now I don't know anything about these websites. They don't affect me any whatsoever. They have no impact on me. I don't even know what impact they have on anyone. But Donald Trump's shutting them down, so we need to panic. Oh, my God. He's a dictator. I heard Hitler. Under Hitler, there were no websites. So it's just another way that Donald Trump is Hitler. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high around 50. Tonight, drizzle throughout the night with a low around 45. For your Wednesday, drizzle throughout the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 58. And on Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 64.
I mean, what, less than, was it 12 hours? Tariffs? Mexico's
Yeah,
like, all
something
right,
like
we'll
that.
put 10,000 troops on the border. Does that work? What I love about it is that Trump doesn't say, okay. He's like, well, it's basically a probationary period. Well, we'll put them on pause for 30 days and we'll see how things go. It's just taking this complete opposite approach in which all countries took advantage of us and would say, we're going to do this unless you do this. And we're like, okay, just tell us how, to jump and we'll ask how high. And then we do it and they don't comply. But then they say, well, we'll start complying if you give us more. That's how we've always dealt with stuff. Trump's the opposite. He's like, no. Oh, that's not how things work. You're going to comply or you're going to, suffer. You're going to, all these little perks you get from the United States' existence on this planet, they're going to go away. They're like, I don't think so. He's like, all right. And I mean, it's just, do they have a direct line? I mean, straight to the White House. All right, 10,000 troops. Then you got Canada. They're next in line. And all of the big, mouthing of Trudeau, and they're all, they're not going to mess with us. And, well, okay, all right, we'll start enforcing our border as well. We'll do the same thing. We knuckle under Uncle. And China, they're like, hey, can we get together and have a chat? We'd like to figure something out here. That's called winning. For those of you who don't like winning, who recoil at winning, who think somehow winning is a bad thing, or maybe you've just never won anything in your entire life, and so you don't recognize what it looks like. This is it. It's also known as success. There's a few different synonyms that you may not be familiar with that you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot of, and so you can get used to it if you want, or you can continue to find reasons to get yourself all worked up, like government websites being taken down while they're adjusted to executive orders, because those are the real problems in the world, of course. I mean, can you imagine a country without the government having websites that you've never even heard of before until they're in the news to tell you how horrible things are because they've gone away or they shut down temporarily? Oh, yes. Created panic. Weather update. Wait, you did weather.
I did
Traffic.
weather, yeah.
Traffic. Yes, that's right. We've got traffic now. Streaming live, KSGF.com, also on YouTube. Can watch us there in studio. Several government websites have been taken down, including the USA.gov, foreignassistance.gov, neglecteddiseases.gov, and childreninadversity.gov. A wired analysis of more than 1,000, more than 1,000 federal.gov websites found that at least 7 sites linked to a U.S. aid server went offline in a 2-hour span on Saturday afternoon. Now, much of this is, I'm not sure how familiar you are with websites, but there has been an executive order, several in fact, that have to do with what the priorities. And the priorities are, under the Trump administration, to get back to what the mission of the different outfits and organizations are, though hopefully some of these divisions of government, which you've never even heard of, will go away because they're not necessary, and so they won't need websites. But some of it, they're going through, they're having to change stuff on the website in order to prioritize what the actual purpose of that division of government is, instead of other things like segregation, DEI, race-based this and that, and so forth. The fact that in this wired analysis, what is wrong with me? It doesn't strike you as maybe a bit excessive that just in the analysis you did, there were more than 1,000 federal.gov. If you had been asked to guess how many federal, not state, not local, but federal government websites out there, would you have guessed over 1,000?
No, probably like 60, maybe 100.
Yeah, I would have. If I was thinking, well, it's probably more than I think. I may have said a few hundred, maybe, but over 1,000. That's just what they analyzed. Over 1,000. What does this tell us? Does this not tell us that we have too big of a government? That is insane. That should be a story right there. Like, is it really see, it never crosses the mind of these people who claim that, we're for eliminating government waste. Oh, yes, of course, we're for that. I don't know about you, but right there is a story. Do we really need a government that has over 1,000 just the federal level? On Friday, Reuters reported that word of sites being taken offline was the result of confusion around new guidelines on language allowed to appear on federal sites. By the way, this is a real buzzword that they love to use about the Trump administration, because in their minds it conveys to you that this is all chaos, this is out of the norm, this is very disruptive, we should all be very concerned. Now, of course, this is what Americans voted for. Americans overwhelmingly voted to stop doing things the way that we always do things. And what is occurring here is the people who are only comfortable doing things the way that we've always done things are reacting to it. And so to them, this is chaos. This is awful. So they love putting out there the confusion. People in federal government are confused. In context, of course, that to many of us is absurd, because it suggests that prior to Trump creating confusion in the federal government was a place known for being on point, always just really knowing what was going on, completely efficient. I mean, if you ever had any sort of issue that you needed solved, the one place you could count on was calling government, because they were on point. Every division of government knew what every other division. There's no duplicity occurring. There's no conflicting information given. There's no, that's not my job. We don't do that. You need to call this department over here. Everything on the federal government level, anyhow, was just as effective and efficient. It was remarkable. Nothing has been as revolutionary in terms of the effectiveness and efficiency of the federal government since the assembly line, until Donald Trump came along, and now there's all this confusion. Agencies had been instructed to take down all outward-facing media, websites, social media accounts that indicate or promote gender ideology by 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday, January 31st. The move, the latest step in the Trump administration's move to radically remake the U.S. government. Again, to be focused and to actually do what the mission of whichever division of government is, and to stop segregating us. To stop dividing us and pitting us against one another based on race. I know there are a lot. So what we're learning, and we've learned this even prior to the election, that the left is not only filled with anti-Semitism, but it's filled with segregationists. October 7th, that attack that occurred on Israel brought to the surface the anti-Semitism within the Democrat Party that was so profound, Kamala Harris couldn't pick the governor of Pennsylvania to be her running mate because he was a Jew. They were afraid of the backlash against the neo-Nazis within the Democrat Party, so they instead went with the brilliant pick Tim Walz. And you've got this, I've lost my train of thought where I was going with this particular point. The October 7th and the anti-Semitism that rose to the surface. But now what we're seeing with the elimination of DEI is the segregationists within the Democrat Party that are rising to the surface. So October 7th shone a light on anti-Semitism on the left, and now the cancellation of DEI and the promotion of unity, if you will, that we're human beings. We're not categories of people based off race or sexual orientation or whatever. We're seeing the anger within these segregationists rise up. If there's a silver lining, what Trump has done is brought to the surface really those who still cling to the sins of our past, be it anti-Semitism or segregationist. And much like in the past, they believe that they're virtuous with it. See, many of us grew up thinking that the segregationists, for example, they knew that they were bad people, right? They're like, well, I'm a bad racist person, and I hate people of different colors, and that's why I believe that we should be separated. No, they believe they were virtuous. If you listen to white supremacists, if you listen to skinheads, neo-Nazis, it wasn't simply and always, of course you did have some supremacist, but oftentimes it was simply about the races keeping to themselves, that was best. Wasn't even always about one being better than the other. It was just best to keep them separated. And they felt that was virtuous. They felt that the black culture was much different and unique than the white culture, which was much different and unique from the Hispanic culture, which was much different and unique from the Asian culture. And so it was just best that everyone kept to their own. This is one of the arguments against interracial marriage, that it's just best that people keep to their own. They felt that was a virtue. Well, the left feels that same way today. It went away for a while, or at least culturally we got past that, but apparently within the Democrat Party and the left, it just hibernated to the degree that it wasn't front and center like it has come back. I mean, when you have a gathering of left-wing activists in Springfield, 275 people who are upset because MSU announced that they're no longer going to give scholarships or programs that are segregated, that do not allow people of certain races, or they'll exclude people of certain races. These are people who believe segregation is virtuous. They're wrong, just as they were wrong in the 50s and the 1850s and any time other in human history. that you had people or cultures believing that somehow it was virtuous to discriminate against people based off of their gender, based off their race. Racism is not okay simply because you run a university. Racism is not okay simply because you are a certain skin color. Racism is not okay because you spent six figures to have these diplomas framed that sit behind your desk with the mahogany wood everywhere, and you go to cocktail parties. Your version of racism is no better than anyone else's version of racism. I've kind of segued from the government website panic of 2025 to this piece in the news leader, a town hall meeting organized by the Springfield NAACP to address concerns about the recent policy changes made by President Trump and MSU that are against segregation. We'll talk about that coming up. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. Happy hour coming up at Retro Metro this Friday, 4 to 6. Love for you to come by. Of course, we'll kick the morning off with our Friday Road Show at Scramblers. Doors open there at 6 a.m., and so it can be a full day of nothing but fun with KSGF. The happy hour, if you've not been to one, it's just a great time. Hang out, maybe have some drinks, have something to eat on your way home, and get ready to kick off the weekend. That will be at Retro Metro, 4 to 6 this Friday.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 50. Tonight, drizzle throughout the night with a low around 45. For your Wednesday, drizzle throughout the morning and then mostly cloudy skies with a high near 58. And on Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 64.
There was a town hall meeting that appears to have been specifically for those suffering from paranoid delusions that are also segregationist, organized by the Springfield NAACP to address concerns about recent policy changes that move us away from government-sponsored and government-promoted segregation. The implications at MSU, among other things, they will discontinue instances where individual departments require diversity statements from job applicants. This is something you hear about this sort of thing when you watch documentaries about Scientology or other cult-like organizations where you have to, confess certain things. You have to understand the mantra and repeat it and regurgitate it in order to gain entry, and that's something that MSU has said that they will no longer do. They also will be removing scholarship requirements that limited eligibility based on race, sex, and other characteristics. Now, a lot of you may not have known, number one, that they were doing this, but two, that this is even legal. It's always been my understanding that you cannot discriminate against people based on race. But MSU has announced that now they have been, but because of Donald Trump and Republicans, they will no longer discriminate based off race and sex. This is what the left has a problem with. They also announced that they will remove program participation requirements that limited eligibility based on race, sex, or other characteristics. So they've taken it beyond the separate water fountains. MSU was actually doing separate programs. Like if you were a certain race, you were not allowed to participate in certain programs. Now, this is a different perspective. Again, apparently, while the majority of Americans are pleased that we are getting back with the times here and that Donald Trump is getting us past this segregation world that the left has just insisted on keeping us in, but then there are those on the left that are very opposed to this. Hence the gathering that took place at a church of all places. A slew of public policy shifts during the first weeks of the Trump administration helped fill every pew Sunday afternoon at Pitts Chapel United Methodist Church. A packed crowd of at least 275 people attended the town hall. The Springfield NAACP organized to talk about the rapid changes which are expected to impact a range of historically underrepresented groups and come up with possible next steps. Oh my goodness, what will they do? Kyler Sherman Wilkins, Vice President and Education Committee Co-Chair of the Springfield NAACP, he ran, you may recall, for school board, said there's no way to sugarcoat this. We are in uncertain times. Oh, my goodness. Oh. The town hall was titled, "Where Do We Go From Here? A Roadmap for a Divided Nation." Now, the irony here is that this is in response to the Trump administration and the state of Missouri saying that you cannot divide people based off race and gender when it comes to scholarships, when it comes to access to education. The people who want to divide us are the ones running around saying, oh, we're in such a divided nation now because of Donald Trump. Do you not understand the irony here? I know most of you do. The center of the town hall was a 6-member panel with representatives from Springfield NAACP, Missouri Jobs with Justice, Promo, League of Women Voters, of course, Grupo Latino Americano. Shouldn't that be Latinx Americano? But who am I? And the International Institute of Southwest Missouri. Notice League of Women Voters is in there, an organization that still falsely gets labeled as a nonpartisan organization. Yet every time their head pops up, it's always with some left-wing cause. Sure, that's just a coincidence. Joan Gentry, part of the League of Women Voters of Southwest Missouri, said she's encouraged people are coming together and raising their voices. I'm excited that we have gatherings of folks. Peaceful protest. You better watch what you say. We've been told that encouraging people to peacefully protest is encouraging an insurrection and requires prison time. Oh, but it is the League of Women Voters. They're left-wing, so separate rules for separate people. Gentry advocated for improving civic education, participation, and responsibility. Quote, it's ultimately will boil down to voting, no matter what we end up doing at the local and state and national level. No, now she's right. Much of this did boil down to voting. We did that. This is that democracy thing that you people love to go on and on about until it doesn't go your way. This is the other fun part of all of this. They go on and on about, the vote is what matters. Okay, well, people voted. None of this is a surprise. There isn't anything that has occurred in which people are like, wait a minute, Trump never said he was going to do this if he got elected. All of this was very up front. This is democracy, right? Are you questioning democracy by questioning the direction of this is what people want. Do you not respect democracy? I mean, talking to these people here on the left, particularly the League of Women Voters that go on and on about the importance of democracy. This is it. Why are you fighting against it? Well, because, democracy didn't work this time. Is that what it is? The Reverend Phil Snyder, pastor at Brentwood Christian Church, said hope and optimism have been in short supply lately. He noted the entire New Testament was written by, quote, those experiencing oppression under the weight of violent empire. Have you noticed the people who bemoan the fact that hope and optimism have been in short supply create a vacuum of it, essentially? They are the doomsdayers. They run around about the end of the world and, this is awful, this is horrible, what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, it's so horrible. If only there were some hope and optimism. Well, do that then. It becomes a little difficult to be taken seriously, or for one shouldn't expect to be taken seriously, when you complain about all the negativity, but you're the one that's putting all the negativity out there. Snyder said, when empire tried to take everything from them, they built communities of resistance and joy. Ooh, a little Kamala Harris talk. Rooted in the transforming power of love and liberation that is stronger than any power that tries to contain it, even the power of empire. Now, where segregation comes in there, I'm not really sure. He went on to say, completely non-political, of course, our world is full of too much suffering, but that suffering doesn't have to have the last word. Make no mistake about it, despots like Donald Trump, they want us to think they've got absolute power and they will have the last word. Again, the irony here. Who is it that's claiming that Trump is the dictator? See, these people lack any sort of intellectual approach. On one hand, they go on and on about how Trump is a dictator. The Supreme Court gave Trump unlimited power to do whatever he wanted to. But then they say Trump's the one who thinks that he's a dictator. Trump's the one who thinks that he has unlimited power. You are the people who have been carrying on with that paranoid delusion. You are the ones who have claimed Trump is going to imprison political opposition. Trump is going to put members of the press in prison. You're the ones who have been claiming that he will have unlimited power if he got elected, which he did. Courtney Cook, field director for Promo, Missouri's statewide LGBTQ public policy and advocacy organization, said their goal is to isolate, make people feel lonely, divide us, and we can make change when we come closer and focus on our city. Again, the people who are angry because segregation is going to be going away, at least part of the official MSU approach, are the ones that are complaining or accusing the Republicans or the Trump administration from being the ones dividing. The elimination of policy that says, well, we can discriminate based off of race, we can discriminate based off of gender. That's not dividing when you say that needs to go away. These people are straight up, they're messed up in the head. And much like years past, they masquerade it as virtue. And one of the ways that they do it, we've talked about this, we've had numerous authors of the week talking about the dangers of these secularists that invade churches and masquerade as people of God only to get people addicted to government, believing government is their God, and then using the pulpit, using their position in the church as credibility in order to pull people away from God and instead panic them over the loss of government, taking care of them, segregating people. Do you think, how many of these pastors do you think were having town hall meetings whenever the city of Springfield in Greene County told Christians that they could not come together and worship together in a church? Do you think that they were there leading the charge, getting people panicked over government coming in and trying to tell you could not congregate with others? I suspect not. But man, the minute that government isn't going to participate in segregating people based off of race, they are right there to rally the parishioners, aren't they? Does that seem to really stack up to you? See, the thing about promoting racism and segregation, it doesn't matter who you are, it's wrong. It doesn't matter if you're the member of the NAACP. It doesn't matter if you're a member of the League of Women Voters. It doesn't matter if you masquerade as a person of God and have a church that passes around the plate every Sunday and Sunday night and Wednesday night and collect all that money for whatever causes. It doesn't matter because it's the segregation that's wrong. It is discriminating against people based on race that is wrong. It does not matter who you are. And all of this, but I'm a good person crap, doesn't mean that racism is good. So you can continue the tradition of the ideological left in this country gathering up together, talking about the virtues of separating people based off of race, and demonizing those of us who say that that's wrong. Because we're all children of God, and we should not judge one another, and we certainly shouldn't exclude people from scholarships or education opportunities because of skin color or gender. You are just wrong. Straight up, 100% wrong. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. I love this headline. Schumer says he didn't know Trump would screw up so soon. The left really does have a difficult grasp of words and definitions. There has never been that anyone has demonstrated a more successful first couple of weeks for any president ever.
Yeah, what is he claiming that Trump screwed up on?
Does it matter?
No, not really.
I mean,
but I'm
it's just
curious.
the absurd headlines of this stuff. You've got just in the paranoid delusion meltdowns of the left over these tariffs. Mexico has already said, all right, to start with, we'll give you 10,000 of our troops at the border. Trudeau, big talker up north, is like, okay, hey, we'll help secure our side of the border as well. You have China saying, let's meet, let's get together on this. I mean, that's just within that short period of time, not to mention the hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that corporations over the last 2 weeks have announced during different press conferences. They were going to invest in jobs here in the United States of America instead of overseas, particularly when it comes to AI. And given the unknowns of AI, it's a pretty good deal to have a hub of it, or if not the world hub of AI here in the United States. That way, when it comes down to it, we're not reliant on, China when it comes to that stuff. Yes, what a train wreck it's been. What an absolute train wreck it has been for Donald Trump so far. Biden has signed with a Hollywood talent agency.
Oh.
Yes, just weeks after leaving office, Joe Biden laying the groundwork for his post-presidential era in Hollywood. One of the entertainment industry's biggest talent firms, Creative Artists Agency, which represents actors including Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, said Monday it had signed Biden. Excuse me. They said that Biden is one of America's most respected and influential voices in national and global affairs. Did you know this? What's that?
I said, what's he going to play? Confused old man wandering in the background?
You know what? If they gave him a talk show, at least in the beginning, it would have amazing viewership numbers. I'd tune in to watch that. Just give him a talk show, not even political. So they say that Biden is one of America's most respected and influential voices in national and global affairs. His lifelong commitment to public service is one of unity, optimism, dignity, and possibility. Lord, we are profoundly honored to partner with him again. Oh, yeah, unity, calling Americans who don't vote for him semi-fascist.
And garbage.
And garbage. Optimism. That must be when he was talking about the end of democracy as we know it if Trump gets elected. Dignity, well, I mean, clearly. Topless transgenders running around, kids on the White House lawn, cocaine in the White House, millions and millions of dollars coming in from foreign countries into through LLCs to bank accounts. Yes, this dignity is written all over the place, but most respected. You want to see when I guess they have websites for their different talent where you can go and like, oh, you can book this person. And then I could just see the quotes. Barack Obama, never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. You got Obama's former defense secretary, Gates, saying that Biden has been wrong on every single foreign policy ever, as much as he loved the guy. Is this the sort of respected, analysis that we get of Biden? It's going to be an interesting bit. Who would hire the guy and for what? That's the thing. I almost feel bad for him because I can't imagine anyone paying money in order to have an audience with him other than just for the macabre. Like, when back in the day, the circus or the freak shows in which people, this isn't something that happens anymore, just, because culture changes and sensitivities and so forth. But once upon a time, you would pay money to go see the unusual, the curious, the uncomfortable. And outside of just wanting to see Biden in this form of mental instability and whatever else that would happen at that particular moment in time, I don't know why anyone would pay money to see the guy. It's pretty sad. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. A number of you have texted in recommendations as to what it is that former President Biden can do, as it was announced that he has signed with a Hollywood talent agency. We'll get to some of your text messages on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line coming up, 447 KSGF. I want a great homeloan.com if you have home loan needs. You have questions about home loan needs. What about interest rates? Should I wait? Should I not wait? What's the housing market going to do? So much of the home loan process is deciding if it is the right time to do a home loan or refinance, or maybe you're at a point in life where a reverse mortgage makes sense. You may have heard of that, but thought, well, that sounds shady. No, it can be a real legitimate approach and answer for many of your, I don't want to say problems, or just whatever your circumstances are in life. But what is so important is making sure that you make a decision based off all of the information possible, and that's what you get. In addition to all of the home loan needs with the Carrickers and their team, that wealth of information. So reach out to them if you have any questions, and they'd be more than happy to visit with you. They're not there to sell you on anything at all. They're just there to provide you the information. And then if you decide that any of those options are something that you are ready for, then they'll help you along with that process as well. I want a great homeloan.com because you do. Part of the amusement, there's a combination of frustration and amusement when it comes to the coverage and discussion about tariffs. The lack of understanding tariffs, why they're used, how they're used, what it means, that there's frustration there. There's also frustration in the hypocrisy of the left, but that is to some degree coupled with amusement. And the left keeps going on and on about it's just going to cause prices to go up. It's just going to get passed on to the consumer. Well, why don't you all just call for those companies to do what you've been calling for them to do all along and just lower their prices? I mean, that's what Biden said during the State of the Union address when it started to become obvious they couldn't deny inflation any longer. He stood up there and said that businesses just need to lower their prices and pay their people more. That was the answer to it. What were we told the problem was with prices going up, the inflation around us? What was it Kamala Harris and the Democrats said? That they were price gouging. That corporations were taking advantage of you. And in fact, the answer to lowering prices was Kamala Harris and the Democrats said they were going to crack down on these businesses that were charging too high of prices. Isn't it amazing that the entire political apparatus of the Democrats and the media, when it came to inflation, their answer was, well, these companies can just lower their prices. If they're not lowering them, it's because they choose not to in order to, what is it called? Make their obscene profits. But now that there's talk about tariffs and the potential impact that could have on the increase of purchasing the products, that isn't an option any longer, is it? That's not such a simple solution. We don't hear them saying, well, all they have to do is lower their prices. Isn't that amazing? It's almost as if intellectualism, honesty, consistency, none of those are ingredients in the approach some people take when it comes to evaluating the things that go on in our society. All right, so former President Biden signed with Hollywood talent agency CAA. The agency, the co-chair, said in a statement, President Biden is one of America's most respected and influential voices in national and global affairs. And if ever there is proof of somebody that is one of the most respected and influential voices in the country, it's someone whose own party overthrew their election because it was so clear that he could not win, that, they just threw democracy out the window. I mean, clearly. These people, it's just, there's no tethering to the truth. I think for some of these people, they can't help but lie. You don't have to lie to pitch the guy. You could say, You know, in a country in which the American people every 4 years elect a president of the United States, and with, so few presidents remaining alive today, it's always an exciting opportunity to share an audience with any former president of the United States, and we're proud to have one of those in Joe Biden. See, all of that was true. Now, maybe not the proud part, but everything else is factually accurate. But they have to go on, oh, yes, he's one of the most brilliant minds ever, and he's just so absolutely respected. In fact, there's no former or living president that is as powerful and as popular as Joe Biden is, and it's for those reasons we're real proud to have. I mean, come on. Some of the suggestions as to what he could do: a hair-sniffing contest. Yes, Hunter, you are the father. He could do a Maury Povich style deal.
I like that.
See, I think having a talk show would be just absolutely perfect. Just perfect. And it could be about whatever he wanted it to be.
I think he could be a spokesperson for a multitude of items.
Yeah.
Breyer's ice cream.
That he could. What's is it, which one of the radio ice cream commercials? It's always the old guy. Oh, remember back whenever, polio was a thing and how delicious ice cream tasted then, that.
Yeah, he could do that.
He could do that. He could do the Bluebell.
Aviator sunglasses. He could be the spokesperson.
Well, any shampoo or conditioner for children, any No More Tears shampoo, he could be a spokesperson for.
Life Alert.
What Life Alert?
You could do that.
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah.
Those stair lift things.
Yeah. Remember the graphic that had been made of the chairlift going up the Air Force One steps? That was really good. Yeah, those are. See, some of the other texts. Birthday parties as a clown. Do they really expect Joe Biden to memorize lines? Weekend at Bernie's too.
I have that on my list.
It could be Weekend at Biden's.
Yeah,
it could just be a whole new Weekend at Biden's. I mean, you think about it. You get I mean, there is you got conflict, the family itself. I mean, they just can't stand each other. Drugs, sex. Hunter Biden with all the hookers and the human trafficking and all this.
It would be a great reality TV show.
You know what? Actually, do you think anyone has pitched that? Really?
That would be such a good reality TV show.
If I were in a position with any sort of network of developing ideas, I absolutely would do some sort of reality. It could be maybe just around Hunter. So then you get Joe Biden and Joe Biden in there. Or it could be, I don't know. I think it'd have to be around Hunter. I think you could do a reality TV show around him. What does he have to lose at this point? You could have every person in there that has been preemptively pardoned because they can't go to jail for anything. So they could talk about any of the laws they broke. They could talk about, you could have Fauci in there going on about gain of function, laughing about, all of the money that he got for, that sort of thing, and just laugh about the 6 feet rule that he would later admit was a totally made up number. He didn't even know where it came from, he would eventually admit. And the mask thing, you have to have them. No, you don't need them. Okay, you can remember when he said you could make your own. Mm-hmm. Then remember at the point where he claimed, well, I never said kids couldn't go to school. Remember that one? At one point, he's like, I didn't have anything to do with that. So now that he's been given total and complete immunity of all laws that he's ever broken, Liz Cheney in there, she clearly would be the hated one. Every one of those reality shows, there's a villain. And she would be the villain. Who else could be in there? Yeah, so you get the Bidens, because all of those families, they have sort of these satellite friends, right? Like whether it's a Kardashian-style show or Southern Charm or whatever, they have sort of these different people that, that aren't necessarily in every episode, but they come visit for the weekend and there's some sort of drama. So that's where the Faucis and the Kissingers and the Liz Cheneys could come in. And then we'd get to meet some of these other family members that were pardoned. There Goes Joe. I guess, what would the name of it be? I don't know.
Could be it. There Goes Joe.
Or just No Joke. No Joke Joe. Something along those lines. I don't know. Okay, let's see. We'll get some more of your text messages coming up. Right now, latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 50. Tonight, drizzle throughout the night with a low around 45. For your Wednesday, drizzle throughout the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 58. And on Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 64.
All right, we'll read through some of your other suggestions coming up. As it was announced that former President Biden has signed with a Hollywood talent agency, the same one that represents the likes of Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts. So it's a clear and obvious fit for him to be amongst those. And then some of the latest information, including a segment that I guess we'll informally call Trump the worst Hitler ever. So all of that coming up. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Some of your recommendations as it was announced by Creative Artists Agency, which represents actors including Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts, that they have signed on former President Biden. And so we've been discussing what sort of jobs, I guess, that they can get him. Roomba spokesman could be one of them. What's the? I remember a reference. Is because he shuffles like a Roomba. He moves around like one. Okay. If they brought back the Carol Burnett show, he could play the part of the old man that shuffles around and mumbles. Bicycle helmets. One. Narcon. Biden could be the spokesperson for Huffy bicycles, adult diapers, Jello pudding commercials. I almost said pudding. Biden should do a tell-all audiobook with him as the narrator with his new talent agency. You can see Biden in Las Vegas, and then it shows what's that comedian's name? That's got the you saw. Yeah, he's got the one, but he could actually have Biden sit on his lap. We need a GoFundMe to pay for Biden to do his show and televise it. Is that mean? Yeah. He can get a show where he's a Judge Judy, like it would be hilarious, falling asleep, rambling on, no joke. And then some that we read a bit earlier. Oh, I did get one from my brother, and he said, he would love kids digging in his pockets for Werther's Originals. So it could be like a Werther's Original
Yeah.
commercial. Come on, kids, you know where they are.
He could. I see. I've got just so many of these
Werther's
down.
Original.
What about spokesperson for beach chairs?
Oh yeah, that are safe for
Yes.
his particular demographic. You don't have
Easy.
to easy to lift. You don't have to worry about getting caught in them. Let's see, Biden fallen and I can't get up. Spokesperson, life alert. Let's see here. He could play Herbert the pervert in a real live action Family Guy. He could. Yeah, it would be a good role.
He'd do guest star on The Walking Dead, if that's still a thing.
Yeah.
I think they have a bunch of spinoffs
I
now.
think so too. Yeah, he could have his own. Pardon me, like Trump's tagline, "You're fired." Yeah, I could have some show where he could maybe, yeah, instead of a judge, he gets to pardon people. Uh, Biden could do a documentary on dogs curing cancer. Hey, he never did cure cancer. That was one of his promises he made, that if he got elected president, he would cure cancer with the help of dogs. We never really did get that wrapped up. How to identify a pedo. He can be a ventriloquist dummy. He's used to having someone else putting words in his mouth. The Bidens would be perfect for Jerry Springer, and that is absolutely 100% true. I've said that before, and not being facetious. If ever, I thought that the Clintons were the personification of white trash, but the Bidens have outdone it. I mean, and part of it is all of the emails that were revealed within Hunter Biden's laptop and the way that they talk about each other. But you've got, Biden Hunter sleeping with his brother's wife, his dead brother's wife, all of the hookers. You got the daughter writing in her diary about how her dad, Joe Biden, would crawl into the shower with her when she was at an inappropriate age. The drug use, they really are an absolute dream Jerry Springer program. Yep. So we got a lot of Weekend at Bernie's, but it's straight up Weekend at Biden's. Biden's Angels. The Angel staffers go on adventures, and you never see Joe Biden, just hear his voice sometimes. Yeah, because we talk about visiting angels. Let's see, Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, Walter. That's the name of that character, the Jeff Dunham. He could just straight up The View. Yep, I like that. Okay, all righty. Okay, I think I got most of them there. Coming up, a segment I guess we can informally call Trump the worst Hitler ever. For all of the talk about, I saw this again yet, and it was somebody I actually know that is still on this. Elon Musk is a Nazi conspiracy theory, because of where he held his hand on his heart and then said, "My heart goes out to you," and threw his hand out. And just this whole Trump is a Nazi, Trump is a Nazi. He is like the worst Nazi ever, the worst Hitler ever. Of all the things that Trump has succeeded at, the one that he apparently is miserable at, that is being anti-Semitic, and a couple of stories that lay the foundation for that coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Donald Trump demonstrating once again he's the worst Hitler ever, directing his DOE to investigate 5 universities, including Columbia, over anti-Semitic harassment. The U.S. Department of Education launching the investigation into the 5 colleges, including Columbia, under Trump's direction. The DOE will be probing Northwest University, Portland State University, the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of Minnesota, twin cities alongside Columbia, where the student encampment protests first sparked over Israel's retaliatory strikes to defending itself on Gaza after the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th. The anti-Semitic demonstrations stretched from colleges in Maine all the way to Alaska, sometimes turned into violent clashes with pro-Israel counter-protesters at Columbia and other schools under investigation. Craig Traynor, the Trump-appointed acting assistant secretary for civil rights at the DOE, said too many universities have tolerated widespread anti-Semitic harassment and the illegal encampment that paralyzed campus life last year, driving Jewish life and religious expression underground. The Biden administration's toothless resolution agreement did shamefully little to hold these institutions accountable. Today, the department is putting universities, colleges, and K-12 schools on notice. This administration will not tolerate continued institutional indifference to the well-being of Jewish students on American campuses, nor will it stand by idly if universities fail to combat Jew hatred and the unlawful harassment and violence it animates, he added in the statement. The Department Office for Civil Rights is opening the investigation under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of '64, which protects students from harassment based on their national origin and shared ancestry, according to a press release. The probe follows through on an executive order Trump signed last Wednesday instructing federal agencies to identify all civil and criminal authorities available or to assign them, available to combat anti-Semitism, including finding ways to deport alleged anti-Semitic students on visas and others who violated laws. And so apparently this is what happens when you have a president who doesn't understand history, given that he is supposed to be Hitler and we were promised that he would behave like Hitler. The fact that he is once again doing more than any president, particularly the last administration, in order to protect Jewish citizens and Jewish students on college campuses shows that he just really has not gotten a hang of this Hitler thing yet. Another Trump is the worst Hitler ever story coming up. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies with a high near 50. Tonight, drizzle throughout the night with a low around 45. For your Wednesday, drizzle throughout the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 58. And on Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 64.
80% of Israelis back Trump's Gaza immigration plan. Majority reject Palestinian state. Again, this is the worst Hitler ever, Donald Trump. Fresh surveys released ahead of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit as the first foreign leader to meet Donald Trump at the White House. That again, what a weird thing for Hitler to do. The very first world leader to be accepted by Trump in his second term is the Jewish leader of Israel. Very bad Hitler. Very bad Hitler. Two new polls reveal that Trump's suggestion of Gazan immigration enjoys overwhelming Israeli support, with 80% backing the plan. One poll released yesterday by the Jewish People Policy Institute, Israel Index survey, found that approximately 8 out of 10 Israeli Jews support Trump's suggestion that Arabs from Gaza should relocate to another country. Another survey conducted by Direct Polls Ltd. also found that 80% of Israeli public support Trump's recent proposal for Arab nations, particularly Egypt and Jordan, to take in more Gazans, while only 10% opposed it and 10% had no opinion. It also revealed that more than half of respondents oppose any peace deal with Saudi Arabia that includes a Palestinian state, a key demand from the Biden-era foreign policy advisors. In addition, the polls show 71% of Israelis reject the establishment of a Palestinian state, a stance that has only hardened in the wake of the terrorist attack on October 7th. So, again, it's just such a odd thing here that you have Trump ordering the investigation into universities for not doing enough to protect Jewish students. You have Trump accepting, as the first world leader to come to the White House during his second administration, the Jewish leader of Israel, and you have his plans and his promotion of plans for Israel and Gaza, supported by 80% of the people of Israel. Very, very, very bad Hitler. More winning. We're counting on Trump. Senior Qatari official says, quote, "We want the Middle East to be great again. Trump's push for peace critical." A senior official with the Qatari government speaking out in a Breitbart News exclusive interview, encouraging President Donald Trump to continue the push for peace in the Middle East just ahead of Trump's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Dr. Mahed bin Mohammed al-Ansari, the spokesperson for Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a senior advisor to Qatar's Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jazim bin Jabbar Al Thani. My gosh, at what point do you say I got enough names? Saying that Trump has put the Middle East on a pathway to peace and seeing the ceasefire in Gaza through to a lasting peace is critical to expanding his vision in the region. Al-Ansari told Breitbart News that Trump's appointment of Steve Witkoff to oversee the negotiations in the aftermath of his election victory during the transition and since the inauguration have been critical to securing the first phase of the deal that former President Joe Biden's administration was unable to lock down on his own. Al-Ansari said that when Trump said during the transition that a deal must be reached and the hostage release before he took office, that energized both sides towards reaching the ceasefire in Gaza. And so what we have once again are the different leadership components of the Middle East looking to Trump to restart what not only stopped but was rolled backward under the Biden administration. That's peace in the Middle East. If ever there was a demonstration that people, whether it's our own State Department, under Republican or Democrat, frankly, or other world leaders, don't really truly desire peace in the Middle East, it was the fact that they went backwards from what Trump began to do. The meaningful steps forward with the Abraham Accords that took place were truly historic in the sense, not just some label, but in the sense it was the most meaningful agreements that you had seen between numerous separate countries in the Middle East and Israel that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. It was an approach that the world was told could never, ever happen. John Kerry himself said he was mocking Donald Trump's approach here. Now, Trump went the approach of, okay, I'll try to work out a deal here between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and the Israelis agreed, and the Palestinians, they're like, no, we don't think so. And so Trump did what Trump does. When one approach doesn't work, you take another. And that's when he began saying, okay, we'll just cut them out of the process then. We won't go through them. And that's when John Kerry had said during an interview that I know that there are people who say that you can go around the Palestinians, but mark my words, there will never, ever be any agreement with countries, any country in the Middle East, directly with Israel, without it going through the Palestinians. And he was right, he was wrong. Trump was right. What Trump did with that, it was just so brilliant. And this is what he does. See, he just didn't go in there and say, you guys should get along because world peace. You should do it for the sake of doing it. That's so often the approach that is taken by leadership. World peace is good, so you should do it. Now, that may be an accurate description of world. That is a good thing, and yes, you should do it, but that's not what motivates people. If the mere fact that living peacefully with other countries in your region in and of itself were just the desire to do that was enough to motivate, then there wouldn't be conflict to begin with, because the desire to just get along would be enough to motivate. But clearly that's not enough, and Trump understood that. So that's where Trump integrated the relationships in these deals between the countries to where it was beneficial to them. It wasn't just some symbolic signature at some photo op. It wasn't just, oh, look at us marching towards a more peaceful world. There was a lot of financial component to it, a lot of inner commerce that played a part in it. And so these different countries, one by one, that began signing these Abraham Accords, it was because it was laid out, here's how you can benefit from this economically. This is good for you. That's what Trump understands. And that's why those Abraham Peace Accords were successful. Now, of course, Biden comes along and just, dismisses them as totally irrelevant and decides to start funneling billions of dollars into Iran so that they can, of course, then funnel it to Hamas, and then we have the terrorist attack on Israel. That's the difference between these two administrations. And it's an amazing thing to watch people on the left in particular that go on and on and on about wanting peace. Oh, peace. They'll march in the street for peace. Never had there been such a peaceful time with such meaningful steps forward to entrenched peace in the Middle East than under Donald Trump. And never had we seen it blow up so quickly as we did with Joe Biden. Yet, who is it that they throw their weight behind? It's because they don't care about peace. They don't care about Palestinians being killed. They don't care about Jewish people being killed. They don't care about war and all of the horrific humanitarian violations that come along with it, unless it's something that they can use against Donald Trump. That's the only time it matters to them. Because if they really, truly cared, then they would look at what works, and they would support that. And it's that way with any issue. This is what a lot of people don't understand, and I get it because of the political world we live in. The reason that a lot of people, including me, like a lot of what Trump does is simply because it works. I mean, that may seem like a simpleton approach. It isn't about Democrat. It's not about Republican. It's not about, any of these ideological things. It's what works. And by the way, for a lot of people, it's not just Trump, but that's the reason that many of us take any sort of position on any government involvement when it comes to anything. Well, raise taxes on the rich to help the poor. Okay, let's try that. Guess what? That doesn't work. So that, if you want to put forth another argument to raise tax and say, here's the reason why, this is a good reason. If it works, then we could talk about it. But, it's not for ideological reasons. The position that so many people take in the world, intellectual people, and just normal people, just normal everyday people, does that work? You can see that appreciation when it comes to this tariff stuff. While some people are just running around talking about, screaming and yelling and everything, in the meantime, you've got 10,000 troops committed on the southern border. You got Trudeau saying, all right, we'll secure our border. You have China saying, let's get together and meet. That's progress. That is working. It doesn't mean that everything Trump does is going to work out magnificently. But for Pete's sakes, do you know how much better off we would be if we just quit identifying everything as, it's a Republican idea, so I'm going to stick with it no matter what, or it's a Democrat idea, so I'm going to, and just look at what works. What works? How about that? I would encourage everyone to do that. Now, of course, selfishly, that's easy for me to want because that's what I gravitate towards. And so if everyone just decides to start supporting the things that work, you're going to be agreeing with me. So, there is a degree of selfishness there. But for the life of me, I don't understand why people would want to take that approach. Just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want to support things and policies that have shown over and over and over again to not work? Government involvement in healthcare is another one. I mean, it's just so simple. The more government's involved, the worse it gets. Anywhere and everywhere you go, no matter how much you want to spin it, no matter how much you want to cherry pick, well, but over here it's free. Yeah, but it's also crap. And people die a lot sooner because it takes a year and a half to see a specialist. And unfortunately, we're getting to that point because we've decided, hey, let's do what doesn't work. Let's support that. Let's vote for people who say, government, you know how brilliant it is and how efficient and cheap it makes everything. And so, we're politicians. You can trust us. We make nothing but brilliant decisions. We get along on everything. We got it all figured out right. So trust us to somehow craft this magical formula that's going to make healthcare cheaper and more accessible for everyone. And we're, okay, even though it doesn't work. If I had one magical wish, it would be that when it came to electing people that make decisions that affect us all, the driving, motivating factor for everyone would be, does it work? And by the way, that doesn't mean everyone has to always agree upon that. You will have disagreements as to whether this does work or that doesn't work. But if that were at least the goal of every person, when somebody said, elect me and I'll do this, I'll spend more money on education to make it better. Let's see how that's worked over the past several decades. And how different things would look. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Roof repair season is here, and if you've noticed spots on your ceiling, or maybe you've noticed that your home is a little draftier this winter, that's a pretty good indication that it's time to have a professional roofing company out to your home. And I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they understand that getting a new roof is just, it's not necessarily a fun purchase, so that's why they try to make that process as simple as possible. They offer free roof inspections, and they work through that insurance process without making you sign anything. And they also work through that design process to make sure that your home is not only safe and sound, but it looks good too. They did that with me so I could have kind of the best of both worlds. I have a metal roof on my back porch so I can enjoy that on the rainier months. And I also have your traditional shingles, and they helped me design it so it really complements my home and it doesn't stick out. So if it is time to schedule that inspection with the Pyramid Roofing Company, you can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
When we were on our most recent Great Escape, I had on the program a Canadian by the name of Justin, not Trudeau. And he was, I'd say maybe I forget, he probably told us how old he was, late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around there. And he had talked about how he was once upon a time a left-winger, but as he became wiser and started paying attention to things, realized that those things just did not work and did not like Trudeau, and talked about at that time Trudeau is going to be on his way out. He saw this writing on the wall. And we're going to connect up with him and have him on the show in the upcoming hour just to get his thoughts as a Canadian and his perspective and the perspective of the Canadians within his circle of influence as all this trade stuff and the downfall of Trudeau, and just thought it'd be interesting to chat with the guy. So that'll be coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Talking about things that do and don't work. Get ready. The heads, the constant explosion of heads. White House drafting executive order to begin dismantling education department. The draft order would be a step towards fulfilling a key campaign promise President Donald Trump made to return education policy back to the states. The order would not directly dismantling of the department, but request a plan to do so from the education secretary, according to ABC News. So it's a step. Now, one thing to keep in mind. This is one of those instances in which Trump is actually doing what Republicans have always talked about doing but never did. And many of them will be the first ones to talk about why we can't do this. As long as I have been paying attention at fundraising events, at speeches that are given about the virtues of smaller government and local control, Republicans have talked about how we should get rid of on the national level, the Department of Education. The same party who claims that Trump isn't a real Republican. But another thing that, again, he is actually moving forward with doing it, not just saying it and then forgetting about it because it's a fundraising line. But he said, this is what I'm going to do. This is also going to be another example where just the term education itself is a weapon. It's a political tool. We are going to have people provide, with no evidence whatsoever, the suggestion that without the Department of Education, we'll be failing our children. They're going to start talking about all this. Oh, my gosh, books are going to disappear from shelves. All of these horrible things are going to happen. Scholarships are going to go. They're going to make it seem as if learning is not possible in this world unless there is the Department of Education. Something that, by the way, didn't even exist until the early 80s. Many of you listening, perhaps most of you listening, were educated during a period of your life in which the Department of Education didn't even exist, and the results were actually better. Now, some people may claim, well, the Department of Education's existence isn't responsible for the year after year after year decline of education in this country. Okay, that's a fine argument to make, but you certainly can't claim that it's helped. and this is what needs to happen. See, the left has crafted this way of dealing with these situations in which they don't believe that the arena of ideas is one in which if you think government has a role in something, you should explain why and what benefit that will be. It's the other way. Here is government in existence. If you want it to go away, you have to prove that it's a good thing that it goes away. No. You need to demonstrate that the Department of Education is something that, since its inception and implementation in the early 80s, has been something that has improved education for our children over the years. And if you can't do that, what's the point of it? All of a sudden, we're going to also be expected to believe that on a state level and in the classroom and school boards, they're all just a bunch of buffoons and a bunch of idiots that won't know how to teach kids without direction from the federal government. The same people that want to, oftentimes accurately, point to teachers as the real true educators, the ones who know the students the best, who understand their situations, who best know how it is to educate children, are going to now portray teachers as these entities that will be of no value whatsoever unless this federal department exists. This is going to be a fun one. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. Hey, love for you to join us at Retro Metro. We're going to have a happy hour Friday. And listen, it's just a chance for us to hang out with you. So you can stop by anytime you want, whatever's convenient. Have a drink if you want. Don't have a drink. Have something to eat if you want. Don't have something to drink. But we'll be there 4 to 6. Retro Metro this Friday for happy hour. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. If you have a home buying need, you have a home selling need. If you've ever been through the process before, you may think to yourself, well, I get on Zillow, find some houses, I get let in, they take care of the paperwork. Now, that may be the experience you've been through, and that may be what you think is the extent of what is available out there. And the thing about being a realtor is you kind of are your own boss in certain capacity, right? The level of service that is provided is going to be up to that individual realtor, and Emily Johnson is above and beyond. One of the, to me, such a huge selling point is that she has all the connections for all of those things you may not have thought of, particularly if it comes to selling a home. And then somebody makes an offer, but they're like, well, I want this fixed, that fixed, these things fixed. And all of a sudden you have 5 or 6 things and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know who to trust. I've never, had, never had to have part of my sidewalk lifted because there is a gap there and it's uneven. She has all those contacts. She works with those people. She knows who's good. She knows who's trustworthy. And so that is just a huge stressor taken off your plate. That's just one of the many reasons. I recommend that you go to her website. You can get all of her information off her Facebook page, and you could just see from comments of other people, the level of service that you get is above and beyond what you're going to get elsewhere. That's Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Some more winning for Donald Trump. While if all of these nominees of Trump's end up getting approved, I think that's going to be a huge win. There was an argument to be made at some point over the last couple of weeks that he was not going to get all of these. Now, Matt Gaetz, right out of the gate, of course, for Attorney General, was a position that very quickly, that went to the wayside. A lot of people didn't like the way it played out. I don't like the fact that, once again, accusations are just weapons that are used to get rid of people in Washington that they don't want around anymore, because there are plenty of accusations. Joe Biden, his former Senate staffer, accused him of violent sexual assault, but they didn't want to get rid of him, so, she was just some lying piece of trash that you aren't supposed to believe as a victim. Matt Gaetz, these accusations that were believed by the Biden administration to not be any way, shape, or form credible, and so it went away. But then it came time, Republicans really wanted to get rid of him, and so they used the accusations in order to do so. That's what accusations, without evidence or proof, are just weapons to be used at the pleasure of the people who are in charge. And we saw that with Matt Gaetz. Now, outside of that, some of these other picks, we saw they tried to do the same thing with Hegseth, with accusations, but that didn't work. And there have been concerns about RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Increasingly, there are some who have been pretty confident, or they weren't in the beginning, but now are confident that all of these are going to end up going through. Increasingly, there are signs that indicate that if we're not at that point, we're getting closer. The latest being Susan Collins, who loves to throw in with the Democrats just to, stick it to Trump and Republicans oftentimes, has come out and said that she is going to support Tulsi Gabbard ahead of a committee vote on debate over her D&I nomination. And so given that she is considered a lefty, despite the fact that she is officially a Republican, that is seen as a big move in the right direction. Meanwhile, Lindsey Graham announced that he would vote for RFK Jr., Kash Patel, and Tulsi Gabbard, despite expressing some concerns for Trump's nominees. His endorsement of these figures marks a shift in the future of the Trump administration, given that all three have stirred debate with their unorthodox position and anti-establishment stances. So while that in no uncertain terms means that they are all going to get approved, it certainly is a move in the right direction, and it's just more winning coming out of the Trump administration. We're going to talk coming up to a Canadian who is in Canada. He is someone that was on the show during A Great Escape when we were most recently in Mexico, and it was after the election, but of course this was the week after the election, and he was somebody that had described himself as formerly of the left, but had over time become a huge Trump supporter, and was in no way, shape, or form a fan of Trudeau, and in fact predicted that Trudeau's downfall would be happening sooner than later. That turned out to be true. So given Trump's swearing in and all of the tariff talk back and forth and the resignation of Trudeau, we thought that'd be kind of interesting just to get his thoughts on how things have unfolded since we first met and had him on the show back in November. So from Canada, we'll be talking with Justin coming up here in just a little bit. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies throughout the day with a high near 50. Tonight, drizzle throughout the night with a low around 45. For your Wednesday, drizzle throughout the morning and then mostly cloudy with a high near 58. And on Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 64.
Streaming live, KSGF.com. You can also find us YouTube. You miss any of the show, Spotify, iTunes, and pretty much anywhere, everywhere else. Also the KSGF app or KSGF.com. We're not too terribly difficult to find. As you know, usually once a year or so, and even a couple times a year, we do a Great Escape. We take listeners direct flight chartered to some location. We broadcast from there live. We call it the Great Escape. Incidentally, I would imagine not too far in the future, we will be announcing the next Great Escape. I will tell you the targeted time frame will be in November, a week or two before Thanksgiving, but that's not absolutely set solid. Cam is working on some different options, and so it is something that is underway. In case those of you are wondering, I know as we get into spring, or we're getting there, I run into some of you and you ask, hey, do we know anything yet? And it is in the works, so wanted to give you a heads up on that. Now, when we were in Mexico most recently, it was the week after the election, and one of the fun things I've experienced about these Great Escape trips is when we meet people from other countries, particularly when the Trump component is in play, because people are oftentimes very interested in what our thoughts are as Americans when it comes to Donald Trump, as we are oftentimes interested in the thoughts of people that are viewing from the outside. And when we were there, most recently in Mexico last November, one of the Great Escape folks that went with us had run into Justin from Canada, who was there for, I believe, a friend's wedding, and he agreed to come on and talk a bit from a Canadian perspective, his thoughts about Trump, about Trudeau, and so forth. And so now that Trump is in office, he has been sworn in, and a couple of weeks under his belt, and some clear battling, the whole Canada 51st state thing, which we see largely as trolling to some degree. It's just Trump's way. But also the more serious issue of tariffs, and what we've seen over the last 24 hours is agreement from Mexico in exchange for a 30-day stay on the tariffs, that there would be 10,000 Border Patrol from Mexico, including some other conditions in order to help secure the border. And then we have seen most recently that also a pause on tariffs in Canada in exchange for a number of things. Canada, according to the reports, will reinforce its border with new helicopters, technology, personnel, and enhanced coordination with our authorities, and adding that nearly 10,000 personnel are and will be working on border protection. So we're seeing some sort of movement forward there as well. Justin, want to welcome you, and it's great to talk with you again. You were there in Mexico. It was a buddy's wedding, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. How's it going, eh?
Hey,
how you been, Nick?
Hey, doing pretty good. Are they still together?
Yes. They've been together since high school, and we're in our mid-30s now. So I got hope for the future.
They'll
be together forever.
Sounds very positive. Now, if I remember correctly, you had described yourself as someone who, once upon a time, you were a little more on the left, but as time went on,
For sure.
you changed. And so could you just tell people a little bit about that and how it is that you ended up where you are ideologically today? And what part, if you could, what part of Canada could you tell people? I'm sure people are wondering that.
California. I'm an hour from Detroit. I'm right on the border there. I'm a stone's throw away from Michigan. A couple hours from Toronto.
Okay.
You know, Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I originally voted for Justin Trudeau, and I've never been so wrong on something in my life. I just think I was fooled into thinking that things could be greater that way, and I just think the left has slowly or progressively gotten more and more further left. Like I just don't align myself with their values and views on things as much as I thought I did when I was younger.
What did you think as an observer, to what degree you did, back years ago when Trump first came on the scene as running for president, then getting elected president, and then losing, and now getting reelected? What was that for you? What was that journey like as a Canadian watching that play out?
In the beginning, it was more like entertainment. And then I wasn't honestly the hugest Trump fan. But seeing what's happened in the last 4 years, I thought to myself, well, I was wrong about Trump as I was wrong about thinking Trudeau was good. And it's clear as day, like the decline in your country and the economy and just the way of living and just the way people are thinking with the whole wokeism thing. And it's made me really like Trump as a person. And then I just start seeing certain celebrities that I've always been into have just general conversations with the man. I'm like, hey, you can't just trust what you hear in the media. And I was fooled once again, just like 10 years ago, thinking Trudeau would be this, way to the future of having a nice young leader and, move in the right direction. But that would be further from the truth.
We are talking with Justin, sort of our ambassador from Canada, our Great Escape ambassador. We met when we were on the most recent Great Escape, and just getting his thoughts as we've seen this battle back and forth. Now, you had between like Trudeau and Trump, and there's just been a lot of rhetoric. And you had said on the show back in November that Trudeau was going to go away, and that it may even happen, if I remember correctly, before so you had predicted this.
Yeah. I actually want to do a quote of Trudeau's right after Trump was elected.
Yeah.
And this is what he had to say. It shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult, sometimes march towards progress, Trudeau said, adding he is a proud feminist and will always be an ally. And his quote continues, and yet just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack. Now, you couldn't have had a worse woman candidate than Kamala Harris.
Agreed.
So, I hate that. It's just trying to it's turning this into a misogynist thing, which is further from the truth. And that's just goes to show that people on the left trying to flip things and trying to make things worse and trying to create some narrative that's not really there.
Well, I know my fear, and we talked about it here, is that it would create, because of the way she was presented by our media, this propaganda, that she was brilliant, she was wonderful, she was smart. My fear was that it was going to stereotype American women as idiots. If you're watching throughout the world and you see her presented as like she's the best that we can get, when she presents herself as some sort of idiot, I'm like, this is not a fair representation of the average woman in our country.
It would have been a phenomenal choice if she still was a Democrat. That's a woman president,
right? Yeah,
that's a girl with a head on her shoulders. That's the girl that is understanding. And you can see where I'm glad that she's with Trump now, though, and RFK Jr. Those are two great allies for the Republican Party right there.
Now, I have
from a Canadian's perspective.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Americans, or the few who actually pay attention, really, I'm one of these individuals, love the interaction between the media and the Conservative Party leader, Pierre. Is it pronounced Poilievre?
Pierre. Yeah.
You
Pierre, say it better than I do, buddy.
Pierre Poilievre.
I do.
Well, thank you. I mean, he is just so masterful. Largely what he does, I've recognized, is he doesn't accept any premise. He makes the media identify it. So when they will ask him, do you think this or that? And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? Who says that? And it demonstrates that they're coming from a position that isn't grounded in any sort of reality. What I also like about him, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. Now, he's not. In fact, he's been outspoken about being against this tariff move. The difference I see in somebody like Poilievre versus Trudeau is that Trudeau's, position in defiance of Trump moves is more about, well, Trump is bad, as opposed to Poilievre, who just believes in being a leader for a stronger Canada. It's not an anti-Trump thing. It is, hey, I think that we as Canadians can do better, and if I'm leading the country, I'm going to fight for that. And I don't mind that when that comes in opposition with us. I think that's what he should do. And so that's just the difference in the two that I see. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, he nailed it 100%. Pierre wants to resolve the issue, not create it. Whereas some of these other politicians the last week or two, we're going to tar our babe and we're going to tar off this. at the end of the day, America is the world superpower. We can never win a tariff war with you. But the left, the last week or so, has been like trying to use it to almost gain popularity in the fact like, oh, we need to unite Canada. We need to tariff this, tariff that, and be strong and stuff. Whereas Pierre's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we need to resolve this.
Right.
We have a lot of interest for America that they want in us and vice versa, right? And at the end of the day, things progress. We're protecting your flank essentially from Russia, and that we would never ever do anything negative towards your country. So it's only in our best interest to both, unite and maybe eventually create some free trade like they do in some of the European countries, and both of our countries prosper. Because at the end of the day, if we united, there is no one on earth that can stop us, and we have every means of materials and fossil fuels and minerals that we need.
Well, it would be interesting every so often, if you don't mind. Well, of course, we communicate with one another and have you on the program just to get the perspective of what's going on up there. But before we let you go today, is there anything else, any thoughts that you've had, or just any messaging you want to share as our friend to the north?
Yeah, Canadians do not want to be 51st state. We are very proud, like, to be honest. But honestly, I see that as trolling.
Yeah.
I don't really think that. I see it as trolling. But there is, like, those indoctrinated people on the left that are really taking it serious in Canada. And it's just like, come on, guys. Like, and then now with this whole tariff thing, like, kind of being resolved and stuff, it's like maybe that will open some people's eyes up to saying, okay, maybe he is just trolling about the 51st state thing too.
Well, it's one.
Do you think that's actually something that, like, is a serious thing?
No,
I never thought that from the get-go either.
No,
I was a weak man, right?
Yeah,
so.
I think some of it was just to poke fun at Trudeau. Some of it was, so here's the thing that we've learned about Trump, and I say we, me and Sarah, the producer here, as we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Trump, when he trolls, it's almost at the same time an inside joke with his supporters. If you got some buddies sitting around that know each other and one of them starts giving somebody else a heart and they kind of cut their eyes at each other like, oh, I know what you're doing. That's what Trump is doing a lot of times. It's this inside joke with his supporters where he's essentially saying, oh, watch him freak out over this one. And he throws it out. And it's just, so those of us who get it have come to understand what's going on. So that's why we laugh it off. But people on the left who hate him, they're like, even when he says he's going to do this stuff, they just claim he's joking. Well, he is. But you all just can't accept that. And so it's fun if you understand it. But the left, it allows themselves to just go crazy. Well, listen, do you ever come to the States? I don't know if I asked you that when we were in Mexico.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Well, hey, you should, if you ever find yourself in Springfield, Missouri, you have to come by visit. We'll have a place for you to stay. All right, Justin. Yeah.
Sisters in the IU Pat Union, all the bridge painters down in America there. Just want to say shout out to my brothers and sisters there, and be safe on those bridges.
All right. Thank you, sir. Justin from Canada, look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, Nick. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. So you didn't get a chance to meet Justin
No.
there from Canada. He's very, very
Yeah, he
good,
did a
very
fantastic job.
For a guy that I guess I didn't ask him, but he gave a shout out to his fellow bridge painters. I guess, is there a bridge painter union in the States? He talked like there was one, but obviously people paint bridges. I guess they're probably union, but so I guess that's what he does. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm Facebook friends with him. That's how we communicated. Want to thank our good friend Joe, who goes on the trips with us, and she's the one that was like, hey, I don't even remember how it got started, but it's thanks to her that we got him back on. But yeah, I kind of like having this little ambassador up there.
Yeah, we'll need to do like a regular segment with him.
See, our next great escape, we got to see if we can figure out a way for him to join us down there, because he was there, like he mentioned, for his buddy's wedding, and I think they were all having a very good time, if you know what I mean. But that's what the great escape is for. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly cloudy skies throughout the day with a high near 50. Tonight, drizzle throughout the night with a low around 45. For your Wednesday, drizzle throughout the morning and then mostly cloudy skies with a high near 58. And on Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 64.
That country music, I tell you, all it does is make me think of Beyonce.
Oh, yeah.
So she won Album of the Year. Was that for the country album?
I believe so.
So that was Album of the Year, but not specifically like a genre. Is that what that was?
Honestly, I didn't follow hardly any.
I remember when she had that country song come out, and some people were like, it's all right. And then, of course, if you don't like it, you're racist. And I go, all right, here we go.
No, it won Best Country Album of the Year.
I listen, I don't follow really modern country music, so I don't know. Maybe it was the best album of the year. I don't know. For country music, I don't know.
Well, no, I don't know.
I have
Yahoo
no clue.
Entertainment, I feel, is lying to me.
No clue. Well, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was country album of the year. I've seen a number of articles about how the other nominees, they had scowls on their faces, and who knows. Well, they are women. You know how you ladies can be sometimes. You're not exactly the friendliest to one another whenever one ups you. Guys are a little different, don't you think, than girls are when it comes to that stuff?
It was the best country album
Yeah.
award.
Yeah,
No, you're right.
I can't say that. Well, I mean, look at when it comes to the WNBA. I mean, finally, with Caitlin Clark, they was like, oh, here finally a superstar, and then they all turn on her. You B word, it's just like,
There's a level of pettiness
yeah,
with
there
them.
is. Girls and guys are just. I'm sorry for you people that want to claim that you can just pick your gender. There are some clear differences there when it comes to personalities and interactions. It's not exactly the same all the time. Are these just sort of overriding personality traits at times? And so when I saw these articles about these other country artists who I'm not familiar with because, again, I don't follow country music, but I was like, well, they lost. I mean, what are they supposed to be happy? Maybe they're not real thrilled about it. I have no idea. And I have no idea if the album was legit or if it's one of those things because, Beyonce, and so this will be groundbreaking and blah, 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 blah. This is the problem with, it's an additional problem with, okay, I read it was historic. Is it historic because she's the first female black artist to win Country Album of the Year? I'm guessing that's why. And so immediately, of course, you have some people, because of the day and age that we live in, that will say, well, it's because she is black and female that she got. If it weren't for that, she would not have received that. Again, I have no idea. I don't know.
I think that it's just because she's never won Grammy for Album of the Year, just in general.
Don't you think it's fair to say some people, and it may be people that don't even listen to country music, they're like, oh, here we go. They're trying to make another first, right? Do you think some people would think that?
Right. Well, I mean, that's not her genre.
Well, sure, yeah, until now. But, hey, Taylor Swift was country and she went pop. And so, it's not. And Darius Rucker, he was Hootie and the Blowfish. He went country. Never won Album of the Year under country, but nonetheless. So, it's not completely unheard of that these crossing of genres take place. But, one point being is it's a downside of having a society in which people are oftentimes rewarded not based off merit. Because if you happen to be one of the people in a category that gets lifted up because of your category, then you leave people oftentimes wondering, well, did this person really get it because of this? Or is it because of DEI? Is it because of, and it just creates all sorts of, it's just so much easier when it's all about who's the best. It's just whether it's a job, whether it's music, because then, and the unfortunate thing is you will have, like a female police officer, and maybe a female police officer is involved in some sort of incident, and that female police officer may be the absolute best police officer on the force in merit, 100% the best. But because you have a DEI component, a female, let's say she's a lesbian, throw that in there too. And so automatically people are like, well, wait, is this a DEI hire? Well, that's unfair to her. And so it just creates this doubt all over the place. And it's just bad. That's all. It's just bad. Couple of stories, winning stories. And it really is, I think, something that should instill confidence in us. And the way that we've shifted in this country in terms of how government is working. And I say that in the context of it is government, okay? So we understand that government as an institution, there are very few things that it should actually be doing. And it takes an extremely, extremely proactive attempt to make it go well. Because frankly, you don't have to do it well unless you are made to do well. It's not like the private sector. Oh, I'm going to start a business. If you don't do well at it, if you do poorly at it, guess what? It goes away. If you do poorly in government, what happens? Still there. Look at all of the failed results of the failed institutions. And what happens to them? They get more money. Because that's always the answer. Oh, we just need more money, need more money, need more money. Only in a world in which failure is rewarded, can somebody like Pete Buttigieg be seen by Democrats as, oh, this guy is part of the future of the country, or Kamala Harris, for that example? You know, they're talking about him running for U.S. Senate, and is it Michigan? Pete Buttigieg, you know that?
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, they think that he's the great hope. It's either Minnesota or Michigan, one of the two, running for U.S. Senate. A failed mayor from small-town Indiana that then went on to be an extreme failure as transportation secretary when he even showed up for the job. Michigan. And now they're like, and so particularly with Democrats, they love to reward failure. So when you see people in a government position that are actually carrying out the, in a successful, meaningful way, you got to look at that and go, that's pretty good, because they're doing it because the expectation is that they're going to do it from their superior. Ultimately, that would be Trump, and they have it within themselves as well to do it. And so you just look at these stories. Pete Hegseth visits troops at southern border in first trip as DOD secretary. Now, do we even know, did the previous defense secretary ever even go to the border? I mean, we spend all this time and money helping people defend their borders across the other side of the world. Did Defense Secretary Austin ever go to the southern border? We know that he went AWOL, just disappeared a couple of different times, didn't tell anyone. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, right, and you see her, she looks as natural as can be, but she's a country girl, shooting dogs and stuff. And she's, with the Border Patrol agents, horseback riding along the border. Can you imagine seeing somebody from the Biden administration try to pull that off? Everyone from that administration was so fake. Pete Buttigieg finally, 2 years after the East Palestine train accident, he finally showed up, and he looked like a goofball. He was wearing this outfit, if you will, that just, it all looked like cosplay. It was just unnatural in appearance, and I think part of that was the fact that everyone knew he was only there because he felt like he had, or the Biden administration felt like he had to be there. We've gone from this administration in which, whether it's the fires in Hawaii or the East Palestine train accident, that no one from the administration bothers to address or go to until weeks after the fact, and that's because they've been hounded about ignoring it. And meanwhile, you've got these people, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, you've got the head of the Defense Department, and they're down there on the border. They're horseback riding with agents. They're talking with our troops. And it's just like these people are working. They're not spending their time fake breastfeeding babies that aren't their own or having cocktail parties all over the world. They're actually doing the job. Speaking of East Palestine, here's J.D. Vance in the city of East Palestine. I believe this is yesterday or the day before.
This community, of course, he visited himself personally, and President Trump just wanted to deliver a message that this community will not be forgotten, will not be left behind, and we are in it for the long haul in East Palestine. What does that mean? Well, one thing it means is that, of course, the environmental cleanup has to get done. It's a tragedy and a shame that it wasn't done during the last administration, but I guarantee we're going to finish the cleanup during this administration under the great leadership of Lee Zeldin, our new EP administrator who stands behind me. And I also think that part of that means the long-term economic development of this community. We know that a lot of local businesses and a lot of local people lost a lot when that train disaster happened a couple of years ago. We are committed not just to finishing the environmental side of the cleanup, but hopefully seeing East Palestine build back better and stronger and more prosperous than it was before this disaster happened in the first place.
Well, that's kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that was only 2 years ago. In my mind, that was further back than that.
I like how he said that they're going to build back better.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Biden's?
Yes, but they're actually going to do it. This is what I get again about, or don't get about people who, do you not care about results of things? Do you not? I mean, you might hate, DeSantis is a perfect example. You may hate the guy, but you cannot. I don't care your political persuasion. Like, if I'm a Democrat living in Florida, I'm glad that guy is governor when there's a natural disaster. If you are a hardcore Democrat and you are going to be in a natural disaster as a victim, do you want to be under the leadership of Gavin Newsom in California, or do you want to be under Ron DeSantis in Florida? Any sane person is going to say Florida, just because he just gets it done. And you've got all of this stuff just underway, and you've got up there Vance and East Palestine that is saying we're going to get this thing going, something that has just not been happening over the past couple of years. Because like everything else, it's an administration that really just mailed it in when it came to anything that was needed for an improvement of quality life for Americans. Now, if you're the Taliban, you got a new country, you got an entire military, you got billions of dollars. If you are Hamas, a terrorist organization, you got all that money funneled through Iran by the administration. Not to mention the marketing push by Biden to give them a country, as well as, again, the Taliban. If you're human traffickers, drug smugglers, huge boom to their economies and their industries under the Biden administration. But when it came to people who, whether it's the hurricane victims of North Carolina or the train derailment victims in East Palestine or the fire victims in Hawaii, it's just like, we have to deal with that. Come on. And it's just not, we never were a priority. We never were a priority as Americans. And now we are. And you can just see the difference. This is just, I love this story. I don't know. Who is? Oh, Ross story. Mexican president reveals U.S. concession Trump failed to mention as tariffs paused. So this, it's the media. Got to figure out a way to make Trump look bad. Got to make him look dishonest. Got to make him look like, so this is, see, we didn't win totally because we had to make a concession too. It's always that perspective. How can, like we're bad. Winning is bad. But here's the article. It's a very brief article. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo issued a readout of her call with U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday, but her list of what the two leaders agreed to is different from his in one major respect: guns. Washington Post staff writer Meryl Cornfield pointed out on X that in Scheinbaum's list of things the U.S. had committed to do is stop the flow of guns into Mexico. There's a long-standing evidence showing the gun smuggling route is going in the opposite direction, said NPR in a report. Most recently, the Mexican Attorney General of the Republic of the United States, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, firearms and explosives made an effort to trace the origin of a number of firearms into Mexico coming from or through the United States. Mexico's Secretariat of Foreign Relations found that 70 to 90% of traced firearms originated from and passed through the U.S. The ATF and U.S. Government Accountability estimated a lower rate at 68%. Well, one, how many of guns that come out of Mexico are traceable to begin with? You know, here in the United States, you have to have certain aspects to the guns that make them traceable. I don't know that that's necessarily the case when you're talking about weapons that are developed or purchased by the drug cartels of Mexico. But that aside, the story continues. In Trump's readout of the call, the White House neglected to mention that the new president agreed to stop U.S. gun crossing the border, CNBC confirmed. Trump announced that Mexico had agreed to send 10,000 troops to the U.S. border, which caused him to pause threatened tariffs on the country. So again, this story is like, oh, well, see, Trump didn't win for the United States. He had to concede that part of this deal would be stopping the flow of guns across the border. Well, number one, how is that a loss for the United States? It's not. But secondly, here's the thing. This is by default going to happen. If you have a secure border, then it is going to be more difficult for guns to be trafficked illegally across the border. All of that comes from a secure border. So what does Mexico really think, or is it, I guess, the media? Does the media really think that this is some brilliant negotiating position from Mexico? So Trump has been demanding, and continue with the threat of tariffs, to secure our border, which means, of course, that it is secure. So people can't get across illegally, drugs can't get across illegally, weapons, any and everything that is not supposed to go across the border doesn't make it across the border if you have a secure border. So the president of Mexico's like, okay, well, we want something in return. We want to make sure that guns that are illegal don't make it over the border. To which I'm sure our response was, yeah, okay. Because that is going to be a natural result of a secure border. Oh, yeah. Trump really got worked over on that one, didn't he? Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. The CEO of the largest steel producer in U.S., Nucor Corp, endorsed President Trump's tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico, saying the company applauds the first steps taken by Trump in his America First trade agenda. Now, that's really weird because I have not seen that headlined in any of these, oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end because Donald Trump is imposing tariffs or threatening the imposition of tariffs. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot about the steel industry saying, yeah, no, we support this totally. We're learning also that U.S. aid, the total waste of money, some of the stuff, just absurd things like you and I, taxpayers, being forced to pay for LGBT or trans comic books in Peru, and just all of these horrific wastes of money. But of course, you would think the world is coming to an end from the left. And oh my gosh, what is it these countries are going to do without the taxpayers paying for their trans comic books and you know these other DEI things? The former president of Kenya addressed those, not just in the United States, but specifically in Africa, who are crying about some of these funds being potentially cut off. And I got to tell you, I like what he had to say.
People the other day crying, oh, I don't know, Trump has removed money. He said he's not giving us any more money. Watu wanalia. Why are you crying? It's not your government. It's not your country. He has no reason to give you anything. I mean, hey, you don't pay taxes in America. He is appealing to his people. Shauri yenu bwana. This is a wake-up call for you to say, okay, what are we going to do to help ourselves? Instead of crying, tujiulize, what are we going to do? Haya, ametoa hiyo pesa, sasa tutafanya namna gani jameni? What are we going to do? Yeah? To support ourselves. Because nobody is going to continue holding out a hand there to give you. It is time for us to use our resources for the right things. We are the ones who are using them for the wrong things.
Clearly the words of a white supremacist. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed. Talk with you tomorrow.